Hello, so today we're talking about budget earbuds for people coming from knockoffs or really cheap earbuds. And today it's the Oraimo SpaceBuds Z. It's a really great earbud for the price at which they're offering it. This was all released in 2025 and we are now in 2026, and at this particular point in time they are being sold at ridiculous prices, and to me it doesn't really make sense based on the quality and what they are offering in this product. As someone who really likes overhead headphones, but my issue has been that in the climate or where I find myself when using headphones, especially for long durations outside controlled environments, you end up realizing that getting stuffy ears, as well as you end up sweating a lot because of the heat that's around where I stay. In those cases, I needed something that was in the middle ground, something that I could actually rely on in cases where I'm not able to use my headphones. That's where I started looking into earbuds. In my time, I've actually ended up using variety of earbuds and AirPods, from knockoffs to fake AirPods, which are a lot more available in our markets now, or you can see them wherever you go in our markets, as well as TWSAs and the rest. But in those durations, I've ended up encountering the same problems you might have encountered. So when it comes to connection problems, when it comes to issues around sound quality, when it comes to around build quality, as well as things around warranty and all those stuff. Recently, I actually ended up finding the Oraimo SpaceBuds Z, and at the price at which they were going with, I decided to pick one up, only for me to realize that currently, based on the price they are offering, this is basically the knockoff killer. If you're able to get this, I don't think you'd ever want to go back to buying knockoffs as well. So that's for those who want just a brief overview of why they should get this, but those who would want a little bit more, here's a little bit more details about this. So since this has been 1 year in the system, it means it had a lot more time to be optimized, and someone coming from really cheap and affordable AirPods and getting something to, the first thing you end up realizing is the build quality. As you can see, the build quality, even though it's basically a plastic or it's plasticky, the build quality feels different. The hinges and everything, it makes sense. It feels good, even though it's plastic, compared to coming from knockoffs, as well as coming from very cheap AirPods. The next thing is the promises they make. They promise you 30 decibels of active noise cancellation, as well as 38 hours of active playback. And so far, I've actually been blown away. So let's start with some of the experiences I've had. My first experience when it comes to connecting, because I use an iPhone, I thought maybe there might be 1 or 2 frictions when it comes to connection or pairing this to my mobile phone, and it was ridiculously crazy. I actually had to go back and check whether I was actually paired. So what happened was, I just opened it, went to my settings, it was already there, some of Bluetooth devices you can pair to. I connected to it, and I still felt maybe I was missing a step, because how can it just connect like that? It was connected. Another thing I realized was the Bluetooth connection was really good. Based on the spec, it says it comes with the Bluetooth 5.4, which so far, when it comes to budget and affordable earbuds in the same range, this is crazy, because you are not really far behind when it comes to the Bluetooth technology. And this is really sticky. When I say sticky, it means when it's connected to your device, it hardly really drops. Compared to coming from, let's say, fake earbuds or fake AirPods Pro, you end up realizing that at any point you just hear that annoying sound or Bluetooth connected. With this one, I don't remember the last time I've had it actually disconnect, compared to coming from jet AirPods, whereby sometimes one ear goes off, then the other, you have to reinsert it into the case. It has been a really good experience. When it comes to the active noise cancellation, the first time after pairing, just put them in my ear and things just went quiet. I couldn't hear my ceiling fan, I couldn't hear the humming of my fridge. I thought maybe it was a light out, because normally those are the cases whereby you end up having a quiet place. Only for me to turn, the fan was still on, the fridge was still on, there was light. Until I took one off, then realizing that the active noise cancellation was on. Even though 30 decibel might not seem like a lot fancy, but coming from, or at this particular price point, or someone coming from really cheap and affordable knockoff, this is a game changer. The next thing is the 38 hours battery life that it comes with. If not anything, this alone actually changes the game for someone like me who is coming from a knockoff, or who's coming from really cheap like AirPods. Apart from my overhead headphones, which I really love, but I can't use in long durations because of the heat that it usually generates, or when I'm doing a lot of activities or walking in our climate. So with the 38 hours, I think I charge it once a week, or maybe sometimes, unless when I feel like just charging, then I do charge it, because it's been really hard to get this to this thing to die. I have tried on multiple occasions to get this to die. I've only actually had time to actually use this to be able to get that 38 hours, because from time to time I just top up my devices when I'm in the office or when I'm at home. And another thing, sometimes we do not realize that when it comes to the particular charging port it comes with, because this one comes with a USB Type-C, it means it goes with almost all the devices I have, one cable. So usually when I top off other ones, I just top it off, and it has been difficult to kill so far. So another thing I also ended up realizing was when I started using it, I felt like the sound was a little bit muted. I felt I didn't really have a control around it, because I couldn't say things around like battery life and all that stuff compared to when I'm using other things, when it came to other earbuds or overhead phones, when it came to iOS. When it came to using an iOS device when paired to a different audio device, until I realized that there was an app. The app actually completely changed everything when it came to the usage of this. It changed the way I started seeing this, because I could actually use the equalizer in the app to change the sound, the feel, and even the bass of this to fit my preferences. So as time went on, I like to listen to things at half volume. I still felt this wasn't really given as much as it had been advertised to, until one day I was listening to one of my favorite songs and I decided to try giving it a bit more boost, and that's where I think I ended up regretting, because it really blew my mind. I actually had to go back, check to make sure that it wasn't the same thing I was using, because the amount of quality and the bass was ridiculous. Looking at the price alone kept me thinking over and over and over again, why would something as small and as cheap as this be able to produce that amount of quality? When it came to the bass was phenomenal. You could actually pick up instruments, underlying tones, and all those stuff. It was really crazy. And funny enough too, I nearly got knocked down like 2 or 3 times by a car when I was crossing the road, because it was above 80%, and I can tell you it was so good that I'd forgotten where I was actually at that point, and nearly got knocked down. Sometimes people even have to tap you for you to realize that, oh yeah, sorry, because looking at the price point, it keeps on, up to today, it keeps on surprising me from day to day. Another thing I ended up realizing was the comfort and how it was built. So when you look at it, it looks similar to the AirPods that are available, AirPods Pro, but the difference is it's quite shorter, so it means it fits in your ears and it feels really comfortable, especially for those who use it or would want to use it for really long periods of time. My only gripe is when it comes to where you use to make changes to, or you want to stop or play music. It's over here. Sometimes when you press it, it goes into your ear. Apart from that, it's been really great. It's been really solid. Something people don't really talk about is when it comes to the charging ports. Having Type-C makes it future-proof, especially for people like me who have Type-C on every device of ours. So it means just one cable. This one automatically also falls into the group as well. Another thing I also later on came to find out, it has 360 spatial audio, and that's really great, especially when you're watching movies that do, or content that do support 360 spatial audio, and that's crazy. For the price, I don't think you should even get, and at this point, like, I have no words to say, because when it comes to the price, I've seen other ones that do compete, like, but haven't actually had the opportunity to test, because either they are too expensive or getting them is a lot more difficult. But in this case, whereby this is really a click away, it's ridiculous. Another thing I've come to realize that when it comes to the battery life of 38 hours, just using this alone gives you 10 hours. And 10 hours is more than you need in a day, unless that's all you do, you watch content. And with the case, you get 38 hours. That's something unheard of when it comes to budget cases, because even the ones that with the knockoffs, if you're able to sometimes even get 3 hours or 4 hours, that you're lucky to have gotten a really good knockoff or really good or cheap earbud for that kind of price that this is going for. Another thing that you also need to know, that it comes with so basically, here's why I say, if you are a tech enthusiast, it's me coming from a knockoff, or looking for a really cheap, affordable earbud that would fit your budget, as well as be able to give you really quality sound or quality features that you usually get in the really premium sector, I recommend you go with this rather than buying knockoffs or cheap products whereby you have to end up disposing them from time to time. In this case, this one comes with warranty, you have support, you have 1 or 2 things you wouldn't really get when you're buying knockoffs. And to me, this is basically a perfect fit, from not too cheap that is really bad and not too expensive that you have to go outside your budget. This fits perfectly for most people. So that's all I have to say for this. If you have used this, you have experienced it, just let me know how your experience has been so far. If you have particular EQ settings you'd want to share, do share on maybe how we can improve the sound or make it a lot more better for other people. So let me know your experiences so far with Oraimo products, maybe another product you'd want me to look at.